Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in today. So today I'm going to talk about all the information that you are exposed to during your life and how that can modify you, right? So this can be a very brief video and I'm going to basically just explain this concept. Okay, so when you are exposed to information, whether you hear information, see information, okay, that can have an effect on you, right? And a clear example is that is, for example, let's say you watch the news and it disturbs you, okay? Or you hear information that disturbs you and it modifies the way you feel or the way you think, right? Some people absorb information and they basically take that information as it is and it changes the way they think, okay? So the way you think, the way you feel can be modified by the information that you're exposed to. So in this video, I'm going to explain the concept of being conscious, okay? And this is part of your practice. Being conscious of the information that you're exposed to and conscious about how that information modifies you. So this is a part of discipline, self-discipline in a way, learning to understand that the information you're exposed to, okay, can affect you, right? Being conscious of that, first of all, that information you're exposed to can affect you, okay? And understanding that a part of discipline, in a sense, is controlling, having self-control about how that information controls you or modifies you, right? We've talked about fluctuations of the mind, modifications of the mind, for example, okay? Being conscious about how the information you're exposed to affects you, okay? And having a control on that. So I've expressed the idea of having a center line, basically, okay? This applies to this as well. You know, you have your center line, which is basically where you are. Information can come and touch you in that center, but it can push you towards a direction or not, okay? Or it can modify your center line, okay? So an element of practice is to be conscious that information you are exposed to, okay, information you encounter, will potentially have an impact on you. Being conscious of that and controlling that impact on you. So when you find that place, for example, of the good heart or a place of peace, you know, a place of joy, a place of happiness, right? Learning to not be modified by that information. That doesn't mean you can't have a reaction to that information. However, that information doesn't necessarily need to change the way you think or to change the way you are, right? It doesn't need to have an impact in that sense. You know, it can definitely have an impact in the sense that you have a reaction to that, but you should be conscious of the reaction you have to that information and have control over how it affects you, you know? So you can hear a horrible story on the news, you know, and you can control, in a sense, with practice, you know, how that information affects you. You know, you hear a story of extreme poverty or you know, of children that are suffering or of war, right? And that's information that's terrible, right? But you can have a control over that impact, you know. And once you can control that impact, not let it necessarily change you or change you if you want it to change you, right? If you're conscious and you accept that change, right? But once you have consciousness of how the information you're exposed to reaches you, basically, and how it can modify you, you can basically learn to control how you react to that information and let it change you or not change you with consciousness, right? And this can take conscious effort. You know, it takes basically a consciousness of how this information affects you. So, repeating consciousness and effect many times in this video, but be conscious of that, right? Be conscious. You know, this information that I'm hearing right now, is it affecting me? Is it changing me? Do I want it to affect me? Do I want it to change me? Right? So, one way to break it down is information. Okay? So, information doesn't necessarily need to change you. Okay? However, it can change you. So reflecting on the fact that, you know, sometimes you're exposed to some information and you want it to change you, right? Or you accept that it changes you, right? Or you accept that it allows you to grow, right? Grow in knowledge, grow in information. But let's say you hear some information that might not be 100% exact or something like that. Well, that doesn't need to modify you. So it's also consciousness of perceiving, being conscious that some information you were exposed to may be more or less exact, more or less true, right? And being conscious of that as well. So it's basically analyzing, being conscious of everything you encounter, all the information you encounter within your life, and how that impacts on you, right? And, uh, and that also helps you discern, in a sense, what information you want to basically accept and what information you don't want to accept. So, it's a little bit the concept of, you can take some information and you can reject some information, right? So just be conscious of the information you're exposed to in this world, and how that can have an impact on you. And with that consciousness of that, with thinking about that, right, you're going to notice that you're going to have more control over yourself and more control over your future. Thanks for listening.